Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. And before we get into our guests, just wanted to say the Burgundy Zone is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more at www.listenfrederick.com. But let's join in by the play-by-play announcer, color commentator for the Washington football team, the Mrs. Julie Donaldson. How are you doing on this snowy and cold Monday, Julie?
Yeah, the snow is such a nice treat. I'm from Florida, so I appreciate a good snow day. It was a little, I think I was gripping the handlebars a little tight, or the wheel a little tight this morning trying to drive into work, but I enjoy it. And it's amazing because yesterday at the game, it was like 64 degrees.
Yeah.
So kind of wild that this is just flipped.
Absolutely. And it was a beautiful day yesterday. I know it was kind of cloudy, but it was a perfect day for football.
Mm-hmm.
And Julie, you started calling these games last season, and last season obviously with COVID it was kind of different in a way, but you saw this team fire back in the season, make the playoffs, and they almost did it this season as well. So my question to you is, how has the two seasons been as for calling these games? First time ever for you to do it. I'm sure it was out of your comfort zone a little bit, so how has that gone for you?
Yeah, last year we were still trying to figure everything out. With three people in the booth, kind of who talks when, what do I bring, what element do I make sure that I add for the fan there that can be insightful, entertaining, and add an extra perspective on what the team was trying to work on going into the game. And, working with D'Angelo and Bram, and none of us had done this before. So we're just kind of trying to get our bearings underneath us. And there was no preseason to do the warm-ups for it. So it was like week one, here you go. We were practicing off the televisions, which actually served us well because last year with COVID and no fans allowed at the stadiums, we weren't allowed to travel. We had to call away games from FedEx Field. So that was kind of an interesting way to learn a new craft, or learn to have a new voice into this career, the next path that I've gone into here. But this year it was kind of cool because I feel like we just kind of picked right up where we left off. I like the guys. I feel that we have really a good chemistry and kind of been able to kind of groove. It's great having fans out there as well. This year to be able to travel, we had a travel commercial. But it was, it just comes together a little bit better. Of course, we wish the season would have progressed differently. I think we all anticipated and hoped that they'd be picking up and kind of accelerating and advancing where they left off last season at a different pace. So it gets difficult, especially like, calling the game last night when, and especially the game like in Dallas, what do you talk about? How do you try to make good of it or make entertaining of it, but keep it real at the same time when the team's underperforming. So it's, I don't know, I've enjoyed it. I really have. I've enjoyed it more than I thought that I would.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And coming out of last year, the team went on the hot streak to end of the season. They ended up winning the division with 7 wins last year. Everyone's kind of thought that, they would take that next step, maybe get into the playoffs, maybe get a playoff win as well. And it looks like they could possibly, if they beat New York on Sunday, end the season with 7 wins again. Do you think that this team has taken any steps forward, or you think that they're kind of stagnant and waiting to take the next step next year?
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's a little hard to evaluate that given the way that this season has gone. I mean, taking steps forward in maybe certain aspects, I suppose ever so slightly, step backwards, maybe at times as well. Finishing 7-9 is not what you anticipated or wanted or hoped or expected, and even should have demanded from this team. But there are so many things that came across the way. And, I know coach won't make excuses and nobody wants to hear excuses, but they had 16 players on IR throughout the season. And you look at who those players are, they were starters, they were role players, they were expected to have significant, contributions. And then you had at one point 23 players in a matter of 2 weeks go on the COVID list. So that last stretch there at the end, especially, has been very challenging for this coaching staff. And then they're dealing with stuff off the field that really rocks that locker room. Montez Sweat's brother getting killed, and he lost his mother earlier in the year. That impacted beyond just him, but his teammates. DeShazer Everett getting in that car accident and his girlfriend's life being taken. That rocks that locker room on top of everything else that they've been dealing with, not knowing who's lining up next to them, who's going to be there the next day at practice, who isn't, who you have to play with. I mean, I feel like at times on the offensive line, we'd see a coach stepping in because they were just trying to shuffle through whatever they could. It's kind of hard to really give it a fair assessment because of all of that. I know every team deals with their own fair share of things. And we've had this team before, under Jay Gruden saying, how many players end up on IR? What do you expect when all your guys go down? But that's why you really have to have depth, and what coach preaches of position flex. So I don't know. Part of me just wants to say it's a wash. I wanted them to see when they were at full strength, take better steps forward than 2-6 start. I'd like to see that what they did perform in those 4 games coming out of the bye week carry over sooner and longer.
Yep.
And we didn't get any of that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And one player that that was taken out of this game was Antonio Gibson, obviously being put on the COVID list. Jaret Patterson, the undrafted rookie free agent running back with his first start, got a touchdown, had 12 carries, 57 yards, averaged 4.8 on the ground, 1 touchdown, and 5 receptions with 41 yards. I feel like that was one aspect of Jaret Patterson we didn't really see a lot of, and I was impressed with his play yesterday. What did you think of the young man's first start in the league?
A lot of it's reps. They've seen how hard he's worked through since the day that he got here, how he just is immersed into the game, always asking questions, learning, growing, and trying to make the most of his opportunities. But it's unfortunate, one of those things where you don't get that opportunity unless somebody in front of you goes down. And unfortunately, Antonio Gibson put on the COVID list, so he's not out there. And he was a big factor into this team having that success, that 4-game winning streak. That and the play of the O-line, overcoming so many different shuffles and additions and losses left and right. But I thought Jaret did a really good job with what he was given. You saw him fight hard. You saw him have good vision on the field. You saw how he's elusive and can slip tackles and kind of duck down behind the offensive linemen. They can't see him and then sneak around on in. So I think he's earned, himself some more playing time and a good look, and and the opportunity came and he seized it.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, one more game left against the Giants, but just the season in total, a lot of players, like you said, have been shuffling in and out. A lot of players have stepped up when needed to. Who's a player that you saw throughout the season that kind of just progressed very wellly, and pretty much I know well is not a word, progressed well.
It is now. It is now.
We're going to make it a word now. But who's a player you saw progress and you think has a bright future for this team or in the league?
There's a couple, but I'll start with like Deandre Carter. This is a player that we knew in training camp that he was going to have a pretty good shot at making the 53 because of what he could do in the return game. He's fast, he's shifty, decisive, could catch the ball, which they always say that's the first thing. Got to be able to catch it. We've seen so many, punts muffed. He's able to do that, but then when his opportunity came to really step in on offense and do more, he became somebody that I think they relied on, they went to, and he showed his ability to be able to make those plays. And this is a guy that I think this is like the 4th or 5th team he's been on in his young career. Practice squad guy. He's never been, a starter or out there relied on in those roles. And he was on our podcast, The Players Club, and he was talking about people don't understand how hard that is. Yeah. To keep yourself ready and trained to be ready for a potential maybe. And that maybe is you don't even get your chance unless somebody goes down in front of you. And of course you don't will that, but you want your chance. So I think he performed more than we expected and had to, honestly. He really had to step up. I think as of late, what John Bates was able to do really kind of showed you how he can be more than just helping you in the run game and a blocker, which he predominantly was in college, but he never had the opportunity to show off his hands. By necessity, we were able to see that he has that ability. He's maybe not the quickest on foot, but he's tough, he's physical, and he shows that he can make plays, and he's a big target. So I don't know. That's a good start.
Yeah, and the one you talked about how getting your opportunities, sometimes it takes for somebody to fall in front of you, right? And one player that comes to mind is Brett Favre, and one guy that kind of idolizes him is Taylor Heineke. He has not played well against Dallas this season. I was very critical of him. Yesterday, I thought he played a good game, but there were some things I had issues with. What's your thought process on Taylor being the starting quarterback? We all thought coming into the season, his one biggest challenge was staying healthy for all 17 games, and he's done that up until this point. He's done a pretty good job at that. Well, how do you think Taylor has progressed as a quarterback?
Yeah, well, again, remember, this is his first time in his NFL career where he's had the opportunity to start and get those reps with the one. And, during training camp, he didn't get many reps with the ones. I think it was like an 80-20 and even like a 90-10 of getting Ryan Fitzpatrick ready But they did want to give him the opportunities to kind of work once in a while in there, but not the same as when you're relied upon for that.
Right.
So I think there was a lot of growth along the way, a lot of hard lessons learned, a lot of him trying to do too much, trying to force the ball. And even in this game, we saw at times, where there's some balls like he's sometimes just, he wants so bad to make something happen. And he thinks he can like will it into play. And at times we've seen, and we praise him for doing that. And it turns into a miraculous play that we're thought should have been dead.
Yep.
And he makes something of it. And then there's other times where he goes and he tries to do that and it threw a pick and it's like, okay, there goes the game. Well, that's what you kind of like live and die by a little bit with him when he's that quarterback that kind of plays with his hair on fire. A lot of times he's best when he's unscripted. But we did see, to me, him become a better decision maker, make his decisions quickly and more timely. And I think that was a hard thing he didn't learn in the beginning, why there were so many picks and missed shots, because he was waiting for his guys to get open. Too late. If you're waiting, it's too late. They're not open. You got to lead them to get open. Being able to see the field a little bit, being able to get out and move to that. So I liked the progression. Does he have a spot in the NFL? Sure. Does he have a spot as a starter? We'll see. I still think there's a lot of growth that he needs to have to be that legit, guy that you're going to say, hey, we're riding with him the whole season as our number one, as opposed to, well, this is what we have. But I thought he made a good chance of his opportunities and really kind of kept things going.
And to piggyback off of that, Julie, the fan base is automatically going, they go into quarterback mode and they start talking about the offseason. Of course, you've seen it on social media. Do you have a preference? If Washington, I know no disrespect to Taylor, I think he's done an incredible job as a starting quarterback, but let's just say you could do better at that position. Would you rather go down the route of a veteran free agent quarterback, or are you more leaning towards a draft?
No, I mean, right now, I'd want to go towards a quarterback that's proven.
Okay.
And I think that was their plan all along, which is why they went for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, He was in his 17th season. My goodness. That you don't get much more proven than that. There's not many that last that long. I think that's the route to go. I mean, if you get a young quarterback, how many have we seen that have managed to have early on success? It takes time. So if you're going to correct, and a lot of them end up being busts, so it's high risk, high reward if you hit. But it's hard to really tell who's going to hit and who's not. I mean, Justin Herbert, could we have had him? Sure. Would that have been great? Did you know he would have become what he had, and then you get others that you're like, okay, well, that swing and a miss, and that was costly and it sets you back. Should you put that on your first round pick on that? So I would go with somebody who's got some experience, a free agent who can come in here and automatically elevate this offense. We've got some playmakers, and not everybody was healthy, but we've got some playmakers in there. You want to be able to see them go to that next level, I think, quickly. Coach says 3 to 5 years. Okay, we're 2 in. If you're going with the rookie quarterback, you're now, I think, extending that to the 5-year plan. And then you potentially start losing, some of the guys that you've got in here that are making this defense so great when their time comes up and free agency hits for them. So, this team is close. It's hard to win games, but I would go with I'm just my opinion. I think you would go with the quarterback that has experience and that can help run this offense the way you want.
Yeah, I agree with definitely the veteran route. I've always said all along that I think that Ron is more attracted to the veteran guys and maybe bringing along a young guy along his 3 to 5 year process or his 5-year process. But another guy they had a kind of an up and down season, just like this team, was the first round pick, Jamin Davis. Obviously, if you've been on Twitter, everyone's, oh, he's a bust, this, that, and the third. But obviously, it takes a long time. It takes a little bit to adjust from college to the NFL game, the speed and all those things. What have you seen from Jamin Davis that makes you think that going into his second year, he will be a steady linebacker for this team?
Yeah, the thing with Jamin is you see him thinking a lot. And at that linebacker position, you need to trust your instincts and go, which means you need to be able to recognize it, see what's coming and just go with it and quickly react. And he wants to he's this, he comes from this military background where everything has to be absolutely perfect and structured and, a certain system instead of just trusting his athletic ability. But you can tell he's a little bit uncomfortable out there because he's not to that point where he's got the game and can recognize things as quickly to trust the instincts. Of course, he has the athletic ability, and that's what kind of got him a lot of success in college, is just relying on that athletic ability. Well, here at the pros, it's a little bit different level. You have to understand the game more and the film more. So I do know that, that came a little bit slower than I think that they anticipated or wanted for anybody, especially even for him. But you did see moments where he can make plays. So Let's put him through another good long off season and, another time on that belt. We even heard last year, a lot of the guys were saying it takes a while, even those vets that have been there, to learn what's being asked of them in the system that Jack Del Rio has, to where they thought that they could pick back up next year and avoid part of that learning curve that he had this year and just go. And you've seen Cole Holcomb benefit from that as well, where he was able to kind of step in and take a lot of good strides. So I won't say bust just yet, but definitely did not get the performance and the production that I think everybody hoped for being a first round pick this year.
And Jamin Davis with the lone sack yesterday on Jalen Hurts. It should have been Cole Holcomb's, but I guess.
Yeah, I was like, we were seeing the broadcast, like the assist goes to Cole. Like that should have been Cole. But Cole didn't want to get the penalty or the flag, it seemed like. He figured. So he's like, and then the guy gets away, and it's, you can't win or you can't lose when it comes to hitting the quarterback or not. But D'Angelo Hall's like, take the penalty, just get him down.
Dude, that's what I thought. And I saw Cole put up his hands right after it. Like, I knew what he was saying. Like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do with my hands, Ricky Bobby style. But to wrap this up, Julie, I have two questions for you. One being one of the jerseys behind me, Mr. number 17. He needed 101 yards to reach 1,000 yards, which would be the first Washington receiver to have back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving yards in a season since 1994. He only got 61 yesterday, so he's still 40 away. That being said, I love me some Terry McLaurin. I want him here long term. I hope we hand him a blank check. My question to you is, if your percentage of confidence that Terry's going to stay in the Burgundy and Gold, what would it be?
I would say it's going to be pretty high. I think Terry's a very loyal player, and this team is the one that drafted him and gave him the opportunity to really emerge as that receiver, as opposed to just coming in and being like, I'm going to be the gunner and the best gunner that there is. We're like, dude, you're so far away from being that guy. And he's, and we had him on the Players Club just this last week, and man, he's just a mature guy, just a mature kid. And I remember the first time I asked the coaching staff about him, and they're like, you know what, if you get 52 more of Terry McLaurin's, like, you're going to the Super Bowl every year, because the way he approaches the game, he works out at the game. He's not a diva, which is probably not in the Pro Bowl, though, he very well will be there in his career. We know for that, but
should be.
He's just a good hard worker. But I do think it's been a little bit, you want to say it's been kind of unfair to him.
Yep.
Because you want somebody to help him out. They brought in Curtis Samuel thinking that would help him out. And it didn't, and they've spread the ball around a lot. Of course, I think we want to see Terry get fed a lot more. We all want to see and know that he's a dynamic playmaker. Maybe I'm incredibly hopeful that that's what I'm like putting out and speaking into existence.
I'm right there with you, Julie. I hope so. Keep pushing it, please.
But you want, if you want to talk about having good character guys on your team and leaders on your team, and this team's relatively young on offense, then you've got to be able to make sure you keep Terry.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And then my last question for you, Ron Rivera had some comments to say about rookie minicamp and kind of the off-season workout. I forget what it's called, but Chase voluntarily skipped him last season. I know he was going to make money, which I'm not going to fault him for by any stretch, because you never know when an injury can happen. And, dude, take your time, use as much as you need to. But I could understand what Coach is saying by having a team mindset and having your leaders bought into the point where if this is the time to work, let's do it, and we got something to build on. What did you think about Rivera's comments? Did you really think it was a jab at Chase like a lot of people are making it out to be?
Was that today?
Yes, I believe so.
I didn't get to hear the press conference today. But look, I don't, Chase comes in, he came ready. The thing is I think that coach really wanted, because it's a new staff, and because of everything with COVID, they really wanted everyone to be here for that. And you want that from your leaders to say, okay, we're still going to show up. But Chase came in, he showed up ready. There's nothing that showed that he wasn't in shape. He didn't know what he was supposed to do. He wasn't in the book. So there's nothing that would lead you to say that he was just goofing off when he didn't come here last off season. I've seen him around the building. It's heartbreaking to see, because he's getting pulled up by, a medical van and trying to get out as he's going to try to go through his rehab and come back from the injury. Right. So yeah, I can't speak exactly to all that, but I just do know that any coach is always going to want everyone there, and the player's always going to say, well, it's voluntary. Like, why would I risk potentially getting hurt? If it really is not voluntary, then let's not make it voluntary. Let's call it mandatory, as opposed to all of that. But you're always going to have that difference between coaches and players, I think, when it comes to that kind of verbiage in that time of year. A lot of them prefer to stick with their own workouts. And I can't fault them for that.
Yes, and thank you so much, Julie, for being able to come on here and bless us with your intellect, especially in the game of football, because I would agree with your mindset about Jaret Patterson. His vision yesterday was incredible. I didn't want to abrupt the conversation earlier, but I thought that was a great point by you talking about Jaret Patterson's vision, because it was on
I
point
mean,
yesterday.
that's a big part of the running back, right?
Yep.
Where do you have those holes and how do you get through it and get through them? And I think that's something Antonio Gibson has had to learn as he's transitioned to that position. There's still at times where we're like, okay, you know, when you see it, you've got to be able to take advantage. So a lot of growth. I think we'll get to be able to see from him as his time does go on.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Julie. It has been a pleasure to hear you talk and call all these games. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm not going to have the TV broadcast on, but I'll have you guys on calling the game for me. So that I can actually listen to. I can't listen to Dean Blandino and company. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much, Julie. And I want you to keep posting on Instagram. I don't care about your captions. Keep doing it, please. I want them angry. That's fine. Thank you so much, Julie. You have a great night and stay warm, please.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one, Julie. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the Queen of Ashburn, Mrs. Julie Donaldson. As always, that was incredible. I didn't think she was going to give up as much as she did.
Yeah, it was definitely always a good time whenever we get her on.
Oh, absolutely. And yesterday I was at the game. I'm glad I was able to meet up with Bobby Hutton because Bobby hasn't really been on Twitter that much as of late. And I saw him walking in front of me. I was like, Bobby, what's up, man? How you doing, dude? And he came up, obviously, with a whole thing of signatures that he got that day. You know, Bobby's like a signature magnet, apparently. But yesterday I went down to the game with Colonel. I thought it was a really, really good time. We kind of talked about our thought process going into that game and our expectations. And it went about the way I thought it would, but I thought that the Habs would be flip-flopped. I don't know about you.
Yeah, this team usually comes out in the first half kind of trying to gain their feet, gain their traction along the first half, and then they finally find it, make a little bit of adjustments in the second half, and they usually come out firing. But like you said, it was kind of flip-flop yesterday, kind of like today's snow. If you go north, for some reason, there wasn't any snow, but the farther you go down south, there's just snow everywhere.
Makes zero sense. You go north towards the mountains, there's less snow. It didn't make any sense at all, Hall. You're absolutely right about that. Today was a weird snow day, unfortunately.
Sure
but it was Cash's first snow day, so we went outside, got to enjoy it. He absolutely loved it. But let's get started with our fan questions, Hall. And the first one, I'm going to have to go with the Colonel, who I just sat and watched that game with yesterday. And he says it's a bittersweet journey to FedEx Field yesterday with Kyle. All the conditions were perfect, the weather, the parking, but no drunks, at least not that many. But as we discussed, the first several trips to the red zone and getting field goals, both of us thought that would come back to bite us in the butt, and it did. You're right. And now his question is, given the loss and any chance of making the playoffs, is this season considered a regression, Hall?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's definitely a regression. Like, obviously, me and Ree coming into the season, we all of us said that a positive season would be them at least at minimum making the playoffs, whether it be winning the division or getting into the wild card. And obviously, they're not going to do either of those right now. So I would definitely say it's a regression. I'm not even gonna assume anything at this point, but they should beat the New York Giants on Sunday, so that'll put them at 7 wins, which obviously. Technically, it's a little bit worse than last year because they added the extra game, so the winning percentage is a little bit smaller. But still, you've won 7 games, and you would like to see them maybe take that step from 7 to 9, maybe 10 wins, and then leap board from that into next year. But it is what it is. But to answer your question, yes, it's definitely a regression, and gonna have to come in, work hard to get back on the positive side of things next year.
Yeah, the political answer that I have is yes, it is a regression. I've said it all season long. I consider this season a failure if they did not make the playoffs because that's what you are building upon. Now life happens to think differently and wants to punch you in the mouth, it seems like. And unlucky just seems to be the word for them this season. I mean, you think about every turnover and bad situation that happened to them. It was just like, there was nothing they could do. I mean, think about the pick 6 against the Cowboys with Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence catching that ball for the pick 6. The Randy Gregory one as well. That was another crazy instance. And then the McLeod interception to end that football game. Like, that couldn't have been incomplete. That had to look so perfect that they couldn't overturn it. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, it couldn't go down to that's just the way it had to end. I did think it was a kind of a microcosm for the season where they get up high, they get battled back, and then they're almost there, and just you can't get out of your own way. And I know that coach brought up the tripping call for Bates, but I didn't think that pass was there. I know what Taylor was doing, but you know what they say for quarterbacks: you never miss high, especially in the middle of the field, because it's always going to be a pick. And I think Dak Prescott knows that all too well after facing Landon Collins a couple weeks ago, right? And that's exactly what he did. So, but the other side of me wants to say that it's not a regression, not the non-political side, given the fact that they did not play a first place schedule last season. They won. They went 7-9, like you said. They towards the end they really geared things up and came together and did well. But I will say it's a regression because of what happened with John Allen and Daron Payne. Last season, going into the offseason, this team had a collective group. They had a collective mindset and that they were going to work to get back to what they did because they knew what they had built and that confidence. This Daron Payne and John Allen situation is kind of giving some rotten vibes here, and I don't want to see it deteriorate. And that, for that reason, is the reason why I do feel it's a regression to a point. But I also realize they had a first place schedule. I understand that we kind of gave them higher expectations than they should have. But that being said, I'm proud of this football team, the way that they fought in these games, especially after what happened last week against Dallas. They came in ready to play. They came in throwing punches, and I was really happy with what the offense did. But defense fell back. They could never get their feet. So, yes, it is a regression. And but that being said, the future is still bright. I'm still optimistic about this football team, man. You guys can never take that away from me. I feel like this is such a better team than it was 3-4 years ago, and you can't argue with me differently. And look, you might be a blue say, "Yeah, you're a blind homer." Blah. I don't care, dude. This team would not have fought back at all in any of these games this year under the previous management. Okay, Jay Gruden did not have a hold on this team. They did not fight for their head coach. They just were here for paychecks, including the coaching staff. The fact that Ron Rivera is there in that mindset and in that chair tells you this team is way better. But they're doing it the right way. They're not trying to do it with tricky little cheap moves to make you think that they're doing better. They're doing it the slow, consistent, and constant way to actually generate a winner here in this building. And I know it's foreign to the rest of us, and we all want to say, oh, it's the same old, same old. No, no, no. It's the way it's supposed to go when you are building and actually creating a structure of environmental winning. That's what you're doing here. And I know it sucks, but the night is darkest before dawn. I'm going to say that till I'm in the grave there, Hall. But let's go on to our next question. I know that was long-winded. But our next question is from Big Tony Shivers. My dude, thanks for coming on last episode, dude. He was great, wasn't he? His question is, what are your thoughts on the dopey Joe Judge bashing the Washington football team and Ron Rivera for the Payne and Allen fight, even though his team has had a well-covered brawl and the team sucks? What he means by that, I'm going to paraphrase what Joe Judge basically said was, you don't see our players fighting each other on the sidelines. You don't see our organization being a clown show. And it obviously directly speaking to the Washington football team. So what are your comments on that, Hall?
Well, first of all, I would say that your organization, I'm not going to say your organization is the clown show because the Maras and everyone knows the New York Giants, storied franchise, blah, 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 all that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But your team is a clown show. First of all, like Tony said, it's well known that you guys had a huge fight during, I think it was training camp, with your starting quarterback on the bottom of the pile. Sounds like a little clown showish to me.
And Joe Judge was in there, wasn't he?
Yeah. Didn't you fight one of your assistant coaches for whatever reason? Sounds kind of clown showish to me. But with all that being said, the dude's like, I mean, do you hear his press conference the other day talking about, I got guys that still call me talking about they want to be here, they miss being here, and I got guys that come to my office every day that are going to be free agents. Said they don't want to go nowhere, they want to stay here. Why would they want to stay at a losing team? Y'all haven't won more than 5 or 6 games in the past 5 or 6 years. So the dude's just trying to get trying to get the spotlight taken off of him because obviously Dave Gettleman's about to get blown out.
Yep.
Usually when the GM gets blown out, the head coach is right behind him, so the new GM can come in, pick his new guy. So it just sounds like to me that he's trying to divert a lot of the attention away from him to probably save his job, but it's not going to happen. You're about to get most likely whooped on Sunday, and you'll be right back. You're right out the door with a lot of those players.
Joe Judge is a cuck. I mean, there's nothing more than that. I mean, that's all it is. Only a coward kicks somebody when they're down, and that's essentially what Joe Judge is doing. He sees something that he can use as to poke fun and to push somebody down below him. When in fact we play them in a week, which I understand. I get it. Good for you, dude. Talk that crap. But I guess he didn't learn much from Bill Belichick under what 10 plus seasons he was working with Bill Belichick, because Bill Belichick is very smart in his mindset. Whenever he talks about opponent before playing them or after, what he'll do is he'll give them credit for what they do bad at. It's actually a major trolling is what he does. Like he did it against Washington, I think last season or the year before. Or no, it was in preseason. I think he did a really good job of it. He said they do a really good job of passing the football and stopping the pass, I think is what he said. And I was like, okay, now he's trolling. I get Bill now. And that's what Bill does. But he'll never openly disrespect the other team. Never, because he knows what can happen to you. So obviously Joe Judge is either careless, he doesn't learn under Bill Belichick, or he's a cuck. And I'm going to go with option number 3, and he's just an idiot that doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm glad he made that. I'm glad he said that, because I feel like the players, the staff, they need to realize what the outside view is. And I know that we kind of cloud things in here, but look, man, people are disrespecting you right now, and I hope you come out next week ready to punch those dudes in the mouth. And I know Eric Flowers is biting at the bit to go back to his old team to shove it down their throat. So I'm glad that Joe Judge did that. He's an idiot.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, our next question is from our guy, Digital Guru. He said, Taylor Heinicke seemed like he wanted to prove to the coaches and the fans that he became a better pocket passer. It seemed like he was being like RG3 at times. I'm not going to run for first downs, I'll throw it. To me, it seemed like that was the last time Ron should have switched quarterbacks, because I guarantee you that Kyle would have made some of those deeper passes to the sideline. Taylor is not the future, and if he wants to prove he is a pocket passer, then he needs to sit. Now, his question for the pod is, do you guys think Ron Rivera will start Kyle Allen in next week's finale against the New York Giants?
Well, based off of Coach's answer to the question today, I will say no. I say that he already said he's going to start Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
He did leave the door open that we could see Kyle Allen, yes, but they said they're going to start with Taylor. They're going to roll with Taylor, and obviously, it's the last game of the season. You've already rolled the other 15 and a half games with Taylor. You might as well close it out with Taylor. What is the point of seeing Kyle Allen at this point? You already had him in Carolina. You've already seen what he can do a little bit last year and this year. You pretty much know what Kyle Allen is at this point. I mean, I'm pretty sure you probably know what Taylor Heinicke is, but like I said, to what I said earlier, you've already committed 15 and a half games to Taylor Heinicke. What is one more game? What is 4 more quarters going to do? It's his team. Let him just ride out and close out the season with his team.
Yeah, and that's essentially how I feel, because the players will tell you who is the leader of the team, who is the quarterback of the team, and that's generally who they rally around, and they don't generally do that with Kyle Allen. And Coach talked about in his presser today. He even said it verbatim, what I've been telling you guys the past 2 episodes. They know who Kyle Allen is, and Coach even called him a game manager, and so it kind of tells you how they feel about Kyle. Well, to the fact is, they know that he's not going to elevate, but at times he is careless with the football that throws away games. So do you really want that to start the game? No, but when you get blown out and you need somebody to come in and kind of calm things down and just put some points on the board, that's Kyle Allen, and that's how I feel kind of Ron is feeling about it. So let Taylor continue to go. Let him get this game, and if it gets blown out, you don't want to be embarrassed again, then bring in Kyle. Because we all know what Kyle does against the Giants. He loves to fumble the football, apparently, like he did so many times last season. Cost games, right? But I understand
Coach is taking. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Now, Coach is taking the more polite version of the Mike Zimmer route, which is someone asked Mike Zimmer, yeah. So the last game of the season, you guys are out of contention. Do you want to see Kellen Mond get some game reps? Stern face, he said no. Their interviewer was like, okay, well, why? I see him every day. I don't need to see him in a game. So that's pretty much just straight up dog Kellen Mond. I was like, Jesus.
Good
but
Lord.
That's honestly, Coach is taking the lighter approach to that, where we know what Kyle Allen is. We see him every day. We don't need to see him in the field.
Correct. And that's what my whole thought process was, is they've had Kyle here longer than they've had Taylor. So they've seen what Kyle can bring, and obviously they believe in Taylor, and I think the team does too. That one pass that Taylor had yesterday where he should have been sacked, comes out and throws the ball over the lower defender. I mean, I thought that was beautiful. It shows you to what Taylor can do. But to your point, Digital Guru, Taylor did use his legs when he needed to. I will 150% say that after watching the film today. I thought he did a good job with his legs. That being said, the Eagles did a good job yesterday in coverage. You have to give them some respect in that mindset because they were glue all over those wide receivers, especially in that red zone that Ricky Seals-Jones got injured on. He kind of scrambles out, throws the end zone to Cam Sims and doesn't, or not Cam Sims, I forget who. It was Ricky. And blows it up and doesn't work. But look, it is what it is. I thought Taylor did a good job. But the next question from Digital Guru here, Hall. Which coaches on Ron's staff do you think he will change for next year?
I don't think any. I mean, there might be a certain like assistant coach changes like here and there, but I don't think there'll be any like main coaches as far as like the defensive line coach, offensive line coach. I will say Chris Harris got interviews for defensive coordinator last year in Philly actually, so he might get another run at some defensive coordinator jobs, and maybe he gets snagged up and we got to replace him. But
you know that
I don't.
Todd Bowles did just interview again for the Jaguars job. Would not be surprised if Tampa was calling Chris Harris.
Exactly. So outside of maybe USC job is gone, so Jack Del Rio's not going anywhere. Yeah, outside of maybe Chris Harris getting like another DC defensive coordinator job on another team because their interview, I don't see any major changes like to Jack Del Rio, Scott Turner, guys like that.
I wouldn't foresee any major changes unless it's like to the trainer, other stuff like that, because obviously, availability is job security, and that guy obviously was not here for a very bad reason. The actual offensive and defensive coaching staff, we're not in the building, right? So we don't know how the relationships are. We don't know if something is being taught and it's not being reciprocated, it's not being absorbed, right? We don't know if that's the case, if they're getting through to these guys. And then we've heard some conspiracy theories on the defensive line coach, Sam Mills, and not getting through to the defensive line, there being arguments there and stuff like that. We don't know. So I'm not going to sit here and say anybody needs to go. I know that everyone thinks that Jack Del Rio is a dinosaur, doesn't make these adjustments. They did. They started blitzing. It's just sometimes you get unlucky, man, and these guys got to actually do their job. Like, there's one instance where Jalen Hurts is escaping out of the pocket, and right before he does that, Matt Ioannidis hits a rip move, which takes away the outside lane. And so then at that point, Jalen Hurts is free to run outside, and it's just that one slip move, it ruins the play for the defense. And you don't want to beat up on Matt because he's just trying to get inside. He's just trying to make a play happen. But it's like those type of things that blow it all up. And as a football team, they need to execute better. The devil is in the details, in my personal opinion. And I've seen a lot of that this season where guys are losing their rushing lanes or losing contain. And especially yesterday, I mean, Jalen Hurts had like 7 runs for 44 yards. He was the only reason that they averaged higher than like 3.5 yards per carry was because of Jalen Hurts. Everything else that they kind of shuffled down and really knit in the butt really well for the entire game. But that's just how I feel about it. Now, the next question from us is Sergio Martin in the Discord chat server. Thank you, Sergio. He said, was Taylor Heinicke that bad yesterday? He was getting a lot of hate.
No, I wouldn't say he was that bad.
He was 27 of 36 for 247 yards and 1 interception.
Yeah, look, the problem is, for my point of view at least, the problem is, yes, you're right. He was not that bad at all yesterday. He doesn't deserve to get all the lashings and all the craziness that was getting spewed at him. But the problem is, from my point of view, is he wasn't that good either. He wasn't like a deciding factor of, oh, well, we lost again because of him. Good, we didn't lose again because of you. But we also didn't really win the game because of you type of situation. So he wasn't bad. He wasn't good. He was kind of just average, to be honest with you. Like, that's how I kind of looked at it.
In big pivotal moments, especially in that second half, I guess you could say to the end of the second quarter, the offensive line did let Taylor down. They were letting
dominated.
him dominated. They had rushers in his face, and it's not like the offensive line played terribly. They did a really good job all game of creating rushing lanes and protecting Taylor at times, but it was these really crucial moments that they would just lose their blocks, and Taylor would get sacked. And it's not Taylor's fault for trying to get out of that or the offense. It happens, and that's what I meant about being unlucky this season. I did have an issue with, it was a 1st and 10 on the Philadelphia Eagle 19-yard line in the second quarter, I think with 7:26 left in the second quarter. And they come out 1st and 10. The Philadelphia Eagles look like they're in cover 4. So their corners are deep. Their safeties are deep. Their linebackers are almost stacked with each other across the line of scrimmage. So, not like 5 yards off. So they're in zone. And what we do is we come out and play action, which leads to a Taylor Heinicke sack. That's the last thing you want to do down there, guys. 1st and 10, and it ended up being a 2nd and 17. They ended up having to kick a field goal. Run that football off Charles Leno's butt because there's not another defender for 5 yards off of him. Let's continue that time of possession, continue eating up that clock. Just sometimes it feels like Scott loses the grip on the, I guess, stuffing the football down their throat. And I know that they do have some bad run plays at times, so which makes him trepidatious to call it again. But that's one of those situations I think it was a horrible, horrible play call right there because it costed them 4 more points of what they got.
I think it also goes into how when you're in Scott's offense, I know a lot of people said this going into the season that Scott's offense doesn't really let you change the play and doesn't let you really dictate at the line of scrimmage pre-hand before you snap the ball based off what the defense is doing. So in that situation, like you said, I would love to see them maybe switch up to a run, like a little outside zone, inside zone, something like that. But again, in Scott's offense, I don't think that you can come to the line and be like, all right, looks like they're running cover 4. Let's switch up the play to a run play. So, and maybe that's more Taylor. Maybe that's more Taylor. Maybe that's Scott Turner's offense. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But
I do think that is quarterback dependent because you should never have one play set because you don't know what the defensive core is coming out in. You know what I mean? And so sometimes coordinators will give you 2 plays and like choose one based on the formation that you see and everything like that.
Exactly.
But to your point, you don't see Taylor making all that many adjustments when he does go up to the line of scrimmage, to your point.
You don't really see him calling any type of audibles, any type of, oh, hey, watch that guy. It's more – and who do we have on?
Logan?
I want to say it was either Logan Paulson, and Charles Leno kind of confirmed it that Chase Rouillet, before he went down, he was the one that was coming to the line kind of making all those calls, and Tyler Larson as well. He was the one coming to the line kind of making those calls for Taylor, so Taylor didn't really have to go through that progression pre-snap. So I definitely think that losing all those centers, having Keith Ishmael as a 4th center in there definitely kind of contributed to that too.
One of those sacks on Taylor Heinicke late in that game came on a 3rd and 10 when we were in our own territory. And Keith gets blown up, dude. I like Keith a lot. I think he's a good kid. He's learning how to play center in the professional football league. It is hard, but that play right there, that was big, dude. You got to have your balance around you. Now, another play that I saw that I had a big issue with, I know your question was about Taylor Heinicke, but it was 4th and 2 at the goal line. At the goal line, 4th and 2. Jerron Payne gets blown up. Absolutely destroyed. His whole chest is bare as the running back is crossing his face. They didn't do a combo block. That was straight up guard on guard. Why the heck are you giving up your chest like that, young man? Your helmet should be in the ground at their kneecap, in my personal opinion. Because, look, one of the biggest reasons they were 2 for 2 in the red zone, we were 1 for 3. There's a difference in the game for you, 20-16. That's why. Because you couldn't convert into touchdowns, and it's one of my biggest issues for this team. But speaking of touchdowns, Hall, our next question is from Jeff Miles in the Discord chat server, an uber Red Wolves name fan. I know I didn't mean to be disrespectful Discord chat server, Jeff, but I just cannot stand the howling, dude. His question is, what free agent pieces should we look at in the offseason besides quarterback?
I've been saying it I said it on Twitter today. Look, you saw what the Bengals have done the past 2 years. Obviously, Joe Burrow is 80% of what goes into that.
Right.
But what did they do? They already had T. Higgins there. They had Joe Mixon, the good running back. They added his college teammate, Jamar Chase, who's turning into be probably the rookie of the year and looks like he's going to be a dominant receiver in this league. So my point is they need to go after a legitly dominant outside receiver to pair up with Terry. That way you can kind of move Curtis Samuel around. He can be that chess piece kind of like he was in Carolina where he was in the slot, backfield, this place, that place. So that would be one of my number one things on the board outside of quarterback, a legit number 2 wide receiver.
I agree with you. I do think, remember, like all season long, everyone wants to go on Jamin Davis, right? Now, I've made some comments about Micah Parsons and Jamin Davis. Say whatever you'd like to, right? But let's just put out in the perspective that the Cowboys only had 3 linebackers this past weekend suiting up, and Micah lined up a lot at linebacker. Guess what his stat line was? 5 tackles. Okay, can we stop that argument now? The guy is not a Rookie of the Year candidate at the linebacker spot. He's a Rookie of the Year candidate as a pass rusher, which was my entire point from the get-go. But that being said, I think linebacker is one because I thought Jordan Hicks from Arizona was somebody they should have had as a trade target. Now, you could say that I've been kind of easy on Jamin Davis, but I was subtly telling what my true thought was at that time, which he's not the Mike linebacker that we need right now, that this team needs. And we need to go get that guy, and that was Jordan Hicks. And unfortunately, that didn't happen, but that's somebody I could look into. Bring in this offseason a veteran middle linebacker. Like, I know John Bostic most likely won't be returning based on how his play was and where his contract is. But I would like linebacker to be a point of emphasis in that aspect. And then obviously another one is I'm not gonna say tight end. I do think that they need to go get a veteran guy like Ricky Seals-Jones to bring back as their third tight end. Just because I think Ricky is on a 1-year deal. So just to have that barrier in between of Sammis Reyes and John Bates, I think that third tight end is going to be really, really necessary for them because that was big for this football team when Logan Thomas went down. You can't bank on that all season long. And then running back. I think they have to go get a running back. I know that Jaret Patterson did a really good job yesterday, and especially with Antonio Gibson being out, but that can't be all. Jonathan Williams did an okay job, but you need a difference maker at that spot, and I would like to see that position be one that's utilized, if not late in the draft, in free agency, without a doubt. Now, our next question is going to be from our guy, Orange Crush. He wants to know, we've had a lot of psychological battles this year in the NFL, from car accidents to COVID to loved ones passing away. How much do you think these things impacted Washington's ability to play on the field this year?
Yeah, I mean, Coach said it in one of his pressers. I think it was last week that even though they're football players, yes, they're famous, whatever, they're in the spotlight. They're still human beings. It's not like they just put the helmet on. All of a sudden, all distractions are gone. I'm on the field now. Like some guys can compartmentalize when they put the helmet on. When they step on the field, it's just all about football. And then as soon as the game's over, it's right back to okay, I got to deal with my real life problems and what's going on off the field. But for the most part, these are young men. These are guys that are still in their 20s or early 30s. And yeah, like I said, they're just human beings, just all the rest of us. And more than likely, a lot of stuff is going on off the field, at home, loved ones passing away, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. That's gonna get to a lot of people, majority of the people. So I will say that definitely played a small factor. Obviously, the COVID stuff down the stretch played a huge factor with them having majority of the people out. But I definitely think it was just a huge like snowball mix of just emotional, just stuff off the field, and it kind of you saw it took its toll on down the stretch.
Yeah, I definitely do think it has a lot to do with how they played down the stretch, especially with Jamin, because they were in the car behind DeShazier Everett and his girlfriend that ended up costing Everett's girlfriend her life, rest in peace, which was horrible to hear about. And you have to imagine, Jamin and Benjamin St. Juice, they stayed at the accident with DeShazier as everything was going on. They stayed there with them to make sure everything was okay. You have to imagine, Jamin probably saw some things and heard some things he didn't want to hear. And as a young man, you don't know how you're going to absorb that and react to it and how it's going to impact you. And I'm not going to be in the situation or in the shoes to say, this is how you should be, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that whatsoever. But I will say, remember when Dwayne Haskins got benched and he said this was the worst thing to ever happen to me? It kind of puts into perspective why that's such a stupid thing for somebody to say, especially publicly, because people actually deal with real life issues like Montez Sweat's brother passing away from a shooting in Richmond during the holidays, unfortunately, and it sucks the Sweat family. I pray for them, but it puts in perspective how stupid a comment like that is and why I was so hard on it. But it has a lot to do with it, Orange Crush, and when you're talking about putting your best foot forward, it's hard to do that when you're not gearing up for it because there's other things on your mind. And it's subconscious, and it's nothing you could really point to and say, that's it, that's the reason. But it always does kind of affect it in different ways. Now, the next question from Orange Crush is Jamin Davis played 13 snaps yesterday, and the word is the coaches are going to reposition him. What position do you think he'll have more success in, and why? He says, I guess repositioning worked with Landon Collins, so it could work with Jamin Davis. Where would you see the coaching staff moving Jamin? Where do you think he'd be effective, Hall?
Yeah, I mean, the most probably outside linebacker. I mean, that's what he did in college. You saw at Kentucky, he was the outside guy. He was the guy that was running with the tight ends, using his athletic ability to his advantage, running with running backs out the backfield. And I think that'll make him also, like Julie said, obviously everyone that knows that a little bit about football knows that if you're thinking on the field, you're probably going to be a little bit slower. And I just feel like he'll be more comfortable playing the outside because that's what he did in college. And maybe that'll take away a little bit less of the thinking, which will increase more of the speed on the field. Obviously, going into year 2 of his career, same system, that'll also help as well. But and then you got a guy like Cole Holcomb who in his first year, everyone kind of looked at him like, is he really going to fit this? Year 2 in the scheme, everyone's like, yo, Cole had a great year this year, really had a breakout year for himself. So I definitely think that under Cole Holcomb's tutelage on the outside, I think we could see that big step that Cole Holcomb took in his year 2 from Jamin Davis.
I think I think especially this season, Orange Crush, I think it's a Sam linebacker spot. If I'm not mistaken, I think they use Shaka Tony in this when they have like a 4-down set and then they have a fifth guy over and he's standing up. I think it's Shaka, if I'm not mistaken. Generally, when they have it on the strong side. That's where I would put Jamin because you want to dumb it down for him, right? And you want to teach him about running lanes, positioning, and having open sides. So put him at the Sam and say, look, you are the cutoff for this side. If the play comes to this side, he doesn't get to the left of you on the left side. You're keeping everything in front of you and then chasing it down right if it goes in that direction and vice versa. You're teaching him kind of about positioning at that point, making sure he has leverage on the outside so it doesn't get bounced around. Because one thing that he doesn't have right now is instincts. When he watches the play, you don't see him having the feel for the blocker coming on. And I think at the Sam spot, I think it would naturally and more easily come onto him in a instinctual way, if that makes any sense, because it's right in his face. He knows it's simple. This is what he has to do, and that might make it easier for him to transition to that Mike linebacker spot once he kind of realizes that leverage and that what his expectations are and responsibilities, if that makes any sense.
I'd also like to see them maybe use him more of like kind of like you were talking about the Michael Parsons or how like he's a linebacker, he's kind of like a little bit above average, but as an edge rusher, he's like, oh my God, elite.
There,
But I will say that I would like to see them kind of use Jamin on the edge a little bit more, use his speed, athletic ability to maybe get around those tackles on the outside edge, maybe come up the middle and some little bit more blitz and stuff like that.
yeah, and there was one play in particular. I believe it was a 3rd and 8. They actually had a blitz call, and Jamin blitzed on a wrap coming in, and he had a free lane at Jalen Hurts. I mean, that was a sack, and there was a false start on the play on the right tackle, which took it away. So to your point, that kind of blitzer from that standpoint would be perfect for Jamin because you know he has the speed for it, and you're making his responsibilities a lot easier for him to kind of
exactly.
grasp.
At that point, it's literally just attack the quarterback and
Right.
play the run.
And
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's real
wholeheartedly
simple.
wholeheartedly agree with you at that point. That's kind of what I meant with the Sam linebacker. Either you're
Right.
going or you're stopping the run, one or the other. You know what I mean? Our next
Exactly.
question is from our guy Paul Murphy out in Scotland. What's up, Paul? Oi! We finished our home season as we started it with a 20-16 loss. Great point, dude. So my questions are, which was your favorite play of the season at home?
Man, that's a good one. I think I will go with. Man, it's a tough one. I guess I'll go with week 1. Honestly, that's the one that really just stands out in my head. Week 1 against the Chargers. Taylor Heineke throws the ball down the sideline. I think it was like a 30, 40-yard gain to
Terry.
Terry McLaurin.
We thought
He
it was
makes
a
the
pick.
circus. Yeah, exactly. We were there. We were watching. We were like, oh no, oh yeah. So, I
we
mean,
thought
look,
it was a pick or an intercept or an incompletion, and when
yeah.
they lined up the first down up there, we're like, wait, he caught it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, Terry with the circus catch. He did a lot of that this year, obviously, but yeah, Terry definitely comes to my mind for the #1 home play this season.
I'm gonna be lame. I'm gonna be lame, Paul, and I'm not gonna say a play because I don't really feel like anything at home really dictates that should be benefit of that. But I will say, when Coach walked off the field against Seattle after we got that win on prime time, we stopped the curse, and Coach is walking off the field and he curses, "Let him go." I think that was my favorite point at that point because that was kind of saying, we're building here, we're bringing that confidence back, we're bringing back that glory. And I know that obviously the 4-game stretch since has been putrid and there's been outlying factors, but I thought that was kind of the microcosm of the season, so to speak, and that was a huge one for this football team, without a doubt. Now the next one from Paul is, which opposing team's player impressed you the most?
Uh, Sucks to say, but I'd probably say Michael Parsons. I mean, that's the guy that obviously all of us looked at pre-draft and we are like, yo, he would fit in so well with his defense. He's a beast. He's a monster. But I mean, the guy's the defensive rookie of the year. So how can you not be impressed with that? He's broke a lot of rookie like sack records, or on the verge of breaking sack records. I know he's probably going to get vote for defensive player of the year because he's having that type of year. So I'd probably easily just, again, first thought, first glance, I'd probably say Michael Parsons.
The first one that I have is, without a doubt, is Mike Williams and Justin Herbert. Everyone kind of killed this football team with how Mike Williams, Justin Herbert did against them, but you saw, I saw that game. This is a superstar. I remember telling you, this is a superstar wide receiver in the making right here. This dude looks like Calvin Johnson.
Also a free
Jr.
agent. Also a free agent coming up.
He looks insanely good. I was very impressed with him, dude, because there was nothing Washington could do to stop Mike Williams. It just seemed like he was all over the field. I was very, very impressed with him. Then the other, I'll have to say, was Jalen Hurts. When we were, our position for this game was basically at the player tunnel, about 11 rows back. We had Keith's seats. Thank you so much, Keith, by the way, for doing that, because you made the Colonel and I's day. That was an awesome time. But that 1 3rd and 14 play where he scrambles out to the right and he fires that dart right into Greg Ward, that was a play I was very impressed by, because I watched it from that angle. I could see the defender spread that lane, and you saw that dart go right in there, and Greg Ward stopped the catch. And I was very impressed with Jalen Hurts this year. He kind of had the John Wick mentality with him as a quarterback, especially against us. And even though we were coming after him hard, he was still sitting back there confident and knowing where to go. So I was very, very impressed with Jalen Hurts. The next one from Paul. He was asking, his was the Ricky Seals-Jones catch versus the Giants and Herbert in the opening game, which I think is a great one.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, I feel like that was so long ago now, almost 5 years ago at this point. It's crazy. But yeah, that's actually a great one. That's a great one. Good.
So I'll say the Ricky Seals-Jones catch, because honestly, my number one was that Terry catch. Absolutely insane with what that dude did in that game.
I feel like that was both of ours because we watched it happen live, so that was kind of just but honestly, that Ricky Seals-Jones catch was kind of lit. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, it was. I wish you could have been there with me, because I was there with Donnie, James, and BK. When he caught that football, dude, I was running up and down the rows, dude. I was like, what just happened? That was crazy. But that was a fun day yesterday. Keith, I wanted to say thank you for getting us the parking pass, for getting us the seats. We were in and out of the stadium in 30 minutes. We were back home in 30 minutes. It was a really, really fun time. I know everyone likes to pile on the fence and everything that fell and all like that. I really don't care about that stuff, man. I mean, look, yeah, the stadium is crap. We know that. Let's just get the football on the field better. And they fought. And this was a good game. I thought it was a great football game to watch. There was something it wasn't a blowout either way. And each team had a chance in this football game. It just sucks that couldn't have been an incompletion. I would have loved to see what would have happened after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, make sure you comment anything that you liked from this season. What was your favorite play? Who impressed you the most from opposing teams? We want to hear from you guys. I want to thank you for the year in review. You guys have been huge for us, asking these questions like Scott Hartley, Andy, Orange Crush, Paul Murphy. You guys are awesome for doing all of that, and we couldn't pull off this show without you guys. I hope you guys had a happy new year. It's unfortunate that our playoff chances are out the window, but the future is bright. I promise you guys, I'm optimistic. I know you could say I always am. But I'm telling you, man, future is bright with this football team. This is not the same old, same old. There's actually a direction to go towards. It's just making it better. And that is a great position to be in for me personally, instead of having to look to where we build the foundation, if that makes any sense. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
Paul.
And we'll see you guys on Friday. You're not going to miss that show as we lead up to watch this Giants game to end the season. All right, everybody. We'll see you then. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!